Right now, there's a decent chance your blood sugar has spiked and crashed at least twice today, and you didn't feel a thing. No dizziness, no warning sign, just a quiet roller coaster happening inside your body while you went about your morning. Here's a fact that might stop you in your tracks. Researchers have found that blood sugar swings can happen even in people with completely normal lab results, years before anything shows up on a standard test. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly which 10 foods can help smooth that roller coaster out, and more importantly, why they actually work. Let's start with something most people get wrong. Blood sugar problems are usually pictured as a diabetes issue, something that happens to someone else, someday, maybe. But here's what most people don't realize. The spikes and crashes that lead to bigger problems down the road don't start the day you get a diagnosis. They start years earlier, quietly, one meal at a time, while everything on the outside still looks and feels normal. I think about my friend Dana, who used to joke that she needed a nap by 2 p.m. every single day like it was scheduled into her calendar. She wasn't sick, she wasn't sleep deprived, she just assumed that was her personality, an afternoon person who ran out of steam. It wasn't until she started paying attention to what she ate at lunch and how she felt 2 hours later that she realized the nap wasn't a personality trait, it was a pattern. And once she saw the pattern, she could actually do something about it. Think of your bloodstream like a highway, and glucose, or sugar, like cars on that highway. Insulin is the traffic controller, moving those cars off the highway and into the cells where they're used for energy. When you eat something that digests fast, like white bread or a sugary drink, it's like dumping hundreds of cars onto that highway all at once. Insulin has to work overtime to clear the jam. Do that meal after meal, year after year, and that traffic controller starts getting worn out, less responsive, less efficient. That's really the heart of what we mean when we talk about blood sugar problems.
The surprising part is that food isn't just about avoiding sugar. It's about strategy. Certain foods act almost like a metering system on that highway, letting sugar in gradually instead of all at once. And here's a question worth sitting with for a second. What if the order you eat your food in matters just as much as what's actually on your plate? Keep that in mind because we're coming back to it. First up, leafy greens like spinach and kale. Here's a fact that surprises people. You could eat a huge plate of spinach and barely move your blood sugar at all. That's because leafy greens are mostly water and fiber acts like a mesh screen, slowing digestion down so sugar trickles in instead of rushing in. Now here's where things get interesting, because the next food is one a lot of people have been told to avoid: avocados. For years, fat got blamed for nearly everything, but research has shown that the monounsaturated fat in avocados actually slows down how quickly your stomach empties. Imagine pouring a drink through a wide funnel versus a narrow one. The narrow funnel, the one avocados help create, means a slower, steadier stream of sugar entering your blood instead of a flood. Let's talk about legumes next, things like lentils, chickpeas, and black beans. These are one of the few foods that check almost every box, fiber and plant protein together, which is part of why studies have shown that replacing refined grains with legumes a few times a week can meaningfully improve blood sugar control over time. Picture your digestive system as a factory line. Simple carbs get processed and shipped out fast. Legumes make that line slow down and work carefully, which is exactly what your blood sugar wants. What keeps showing up across the research, again and again, isn't some secret superfood or a perfect diet. It's consistency. Small, Repeatable choices, made most days, tend to matter more than any single dramatic change made once and abandoned a week later. Swapping white rice for lentils a couple of times a week. Adding a small handful of almonds to your afternoon slump instead of reaching for something sugary. Eating your vegetables before the carb-heavy part of your meal. None of these require you to overhaul your entire kitchen overnight, and that's really the point. So here's the takeaway I want you to leave with. You don't need to eliminate entire food groups or follow some rigid, complicated plan to support steadier blood sugar. What actually helps is giving your body the tools, fiber, healthy fat, and protein so it can slow things down and keep your energy more even throughout the day. Somewhere between the plate in front of you right now and the person you'll be 5 years from now, small choices are quietly adding up, whether you're paying attention to them or not. Start small. Pick one food from this list you're not eating enough of, and find one easy way to work it into a meal this week. That's genuinely enough to begin. Dana didn't overhaul her diet overnight. She just started eating her lunch a little differently, and within a couple of weeks, that 2 p.m. nap stopped feeling mandatory. And one honest note before you go. If you have real concerns about your blood sugar, especially if you're managing diabetes, pre-diabetes, or taking any medication, please talk to your doctor before making significant changes to your diet. Everyone's body responds a little differently, and a conversation with a professional who knows your history is worth far more than any general advice, mine included. So I'll leave you with this question. Out of these 10 foods, which one are you already eating regularly, and which one are you going to try adding this week? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely read them. And if this video helped you see food a little differently today, subscribe, because there's a lot more evidence-based health content like this coming your way.
And last on the list, apple cider vinegar. Some studies suggest a small amount taken before a meal may modestly reduce the blood sugar spike that follows, likely because it slows how quickly your stomach empties. The research here is still developing, and it's not a fix on its own, but combined with everything else on this list, it's one more small lever you can pull. Here's where I want to pause, because there's a bigger pattern hiding underneath all 10 of these foods, and it's more important than any single item on the list. It's rarely about eating one good food in isolation. It's about pairing. And remember that question about order I mentioned earlier? Some researchers have actually studied this directly and found that eating vegetables and protein before refined carbs at the same meal can lead to a noticeably smaller blood sugar spike than eating the exact same foods in reverse order. Same plate, same calories, different outcome, just based on sequence. Let's bring this back to real life for a second. Picture two people eating the exact same bagel for breakfast. One eats it plain, on an empty stomach, rushing out the door. The other eats it with a couple of eggs and half an avocado. Same bagel, same sugar content, but two completely different experiences happening inside their bodies over the next 2 hours. One is heading toward a spike and a crash by mid-morning. The other has a much smoother ride. That's the power of pairing, and it costs nothing extra to understand. Here's the real problem, though, and it's not about knowledge, because most people already sort of know sugar isn't great for them. The problem is that these swings don't announce themselves. You don't feel your insulin working overtime. What you feel is being tired after lunch, or hit with a sudden craving at 3 in the afternoon, or struggling to concentrate for no clear reason. Most people chalk that up to being busy or getting older or just having an off day, the way Dana did for years. Rarely do people connect it back to what was on their plate a few hours earlier, but that connection is very often there. While we're at it, let's kill one more myth. A lot of people believe carbohydrates themselves are the enemy, and that the goal is to cut them out entirely. That's not really accurate.
And honestly, it's not sustainable for most people long-term either. The type of carbohydrate, the amount, and what you eat it alongside matter far more than simply avoiding carbs altogether. A cup of lentils and a can of soda are both carbohydrates on paper, but your body treats them in completely different ways. Here's a myth worth clearing up right now because it trips up a lot of people. The myth is that all fat is bad for blood sugar. The truth is the opposite, at least for the right kind of fat. Fatty fish like salmon and sardines are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, and research links these fats to improved insulin sensitivity. In other words, your cells get better at listening when insulin knocks on the door, so your body doesn't need to shout as loud or produce as much insulin just to get the same job done. What happened next in some of the research on cinnamon actually surprised scientists. Several clinical studies found that cinnamon may modestly improve how effectively the body uses insulin. It's not a miracle spice, and the effect is small, but sprinkling a little into your oatmeal or coffee is one of the easiest, lowest-effort additions on this entire list. Nuts deserve their own spotlight too, especially almonds and walnuts. They're rich in fiber, healthy fat, and magnesium. And here's something a lot of people have never heard. Low magnesium levels have actually been associated with poorer blood sugar control in multiple studies. It's like your cells need a specific key to open the door for glucose properly, and magnesium is part of that key. Most people make one simple mistake with berries, and it's not about the berries themselves, it's about eating them alone. Blueberries and other berries are lower in sugar than most fruits and rich in antioxidants called anthocyanins, which some research suggests may support better insulin function. But pair them with a source of protein or fat, like a handful of nuts or plain yogurt, and you slow that sugar release down even further. It's the difference between sugar arriving all at once at a party versus trickling in through the night. Speaking of yogurt, plain Greek yogurt is another steady, reliable option. And here's the part that trips people up. Protein slows digestion and blunts the glucose spike from whatever carbohydrate you eat alongside it. But flavored yogurts often carry hidden added sugar that quietly cancels out the benefit. Reading the label here isn't optional, it's the whole point. Non-starchy vegetables like broccoli and bell peppers round things out nicely. They're high in volume and low in sugar impact, meaning you can eat a genuinely satisfying amount of food without dramatically moving your blood sugar. Think of it as free space on your plate, food that fills you up without adding to that highway traffic we talked about earlier.